Now, the two Nordic countries, Sweden and Finland, have handed in their respective applications to join the military alliance NATO. It's a historic move for the Nordic nations, which are known for their policies of military neutrality. This move comes despite Turkey's threat to block the expansion of North Atlantic Treaty Organization. NATO Secretary Jens Stoltenberg met with Finland and Sweden's ambassadors to NATO in Brussels as the two states formally submitted applications to join the military alliance. The applications have ended decades of military non-alignment policy, and the two NATO enrollments are prompted by feared aggression from Russia. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg welcomed requests by Sweden and Finland to join the bloc, as he described it as a historic moment.
This is a good day at a critical moment for our security. Thank you so much for handing over the applications for Finland's and Sweden's membership in NATO. Every nation has the right to choose its own path. You have both made your choice after thorough democratic processes. And I warmly welcome the requests by Finland and Sweden to join NATO.
Now, Finland's military non-alignment policy dates back more than 75 years. Sweden has also stayed out of military alliances for more than 200 years. It even remained neutral throughout the Second World War. But today, both Sweden and Finland have been rattled by Moscow's invasion of Ukraine. While Finland shares a 1,300-kilometer border with Russia, Sweden does not have a land border. However, it does share a maritime border with the country. And for more on this, we're now being joined by our correspondent Rosie Burchett from Brussels. Thank you for joining us, Rosie. Two Nordic countries, they've submitted their NATO bids. It is, of course, a long, complex process. What are going to be the next steps?
Well, those two ambassadors from Finland and Sweden were at NATO headquarters here in Brussels this morning, and they formally handed over their letters of application to NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg. And with those letters, we're seeing a total rewriting of their defence policy and, of course, more broadly of the security landscape here in Europe. As you rightly pointed out, this will reverse decades, if not more than a century, of military non-alignment for these two Nordic countries. However, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg did point out that Finland and Sweden are NATO's closest partners, and it was expected to be a smooth and simple and swift accession process, at least certainly quicker than previous NATO accessions, quite explicitly because of that reason, that both countries' militaries are very much at NATO standards, and often Finnish and Swedish troops will be training with the NATO troops on joint exercises, for example.
Right.
And these are two advanced democracies, they're members of the European Union, so it was supposed to be a smooth process. However, there are some bumps potentially along the road. The next step, NATO ambassadors meeting in Brussels today, but there will be perhaps some debate around that table.
Right. In fact, I was just going to come to that. Now, Turkey's foreign minister said that Ankara wants to solve its problems with the United States and expand cooperation between two NATO countries. Now, these comments also come as Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan threw a wrench in the works of Sweden and Finland's historic decision. Now, what does this mean going forward?
What it means is that when NATO ambassadors meet today, there might be some disagreements among these 30 existing allies because, as you rightly pointed out, Ankara has voiced some opposition. Turkey accuses these two countries, Sweden and Finland, essentially of offering safe haven to people linked to groups it sees as terrorist groups, and the European Union and the United States share that view. Swedish Prime Minister Magdalena Andersson sought to perhaps quell those concerns when she spoke to press yesterday, saying that her country does everything to fight terrorism. Now, both Sweden's Prime Minister and the Finnish President will be heading to Washington on Thursday for talks with President Biden. They'll likely be trying to seek that consensus because backing formally from all 30 NATO allies is needed for these applications to move forward and the formal accession talks to begin. Turkey has also cited sanctions. Now, what we can understand from that perhaps is an arms embargo that both Finland and Sweden slapped on Turkey back in 2019. Perhaps there might be a deal to be done there to resolve these bilateral disputes. Certainly other NATO allies have said that they are in bilateral talks with Turkey to try and solve these differences and move forward with these accession talks, because, hey, there are some concerns about what might happen between the time when Finland and Sweden apply today and when they formally join the alliance, because it's not until they formally join that those security guarantees associated with NATO kick in.
Right, absolutely, Rosie. Thank you so much for joining us with all your insights on this broadcast. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.